British Scafley and the anti-era movement from the 1970s. There we go. These are some quotes from British Scafley that help me better understand the anti-era movement in the 1970s. The first quote reads, "Feminists have convinced themselves that any difference between men and women is oppression and that women in the United States are an oppressed minority. This is such a lie. American women are the most fortunate class of people who ever lived on the face of the earth. Women were lucky. They were not drafted for the military service, especially during the time of the Vietnam War. They had social security benefits, and during custody battles, the mothers would most likely win." Phyllis Schlafly was a conservative activist and a commentator and an author. She was a prominent member of the anti-communist movement. She would also have a law degree in government and political science. She would work in an assembly line in the factory during World War II, and she worked in Washington, D.C. on conservative political campaigns for Congress members. She was a very active career woman, which was ironic because she was not a typical housewife or she was rarely at home herself, yet she still considered herself a homemaker, volunteer, and mother as her primary occupation. Her main argument of women's rights was already protected under the Constitution, and the era would undermine the family. The era movement, which was initially proposed in the 1920s and eventually did not pass, was equality of rights under the law shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any other state on account of sex. Women have babies and men provide the support. If you don't like the way we're made, then you've got to take it up with God. Phyllis Schlafly. She was very traditional in the roles of each gender and her religion, and it was nature that provided these roles. So to go against them, it was going against nature itself or God. Women should stay at home was the major argument, and it was supported by many conservative women and organizations. In 1983, Phyllis made quiches for 53 senators with a note that said, "Real men do not draft women. Real men don't eat quiche. A guidebook to all that is truly masculine" was a book that recently came out. And she would also make homemade bread to members of Congress as a lobbying tactic, which was something she would regularly do, was make pastries or food as a way of a tactic for political campaigning. This is a Phyllis Schlafly report, and she would actually do a lot of these types of reports because she was an outspoken congresswoman. She would do her best to try to speak her beliefs as many ways as possible via radio, newspaper, conferences, debates, etc. She would try to voice women who did not want to have equal rights to men, and she also believed that a woman's role is equally as sacred as a man's role, so that should not be changed, and that the Equal Rights Amendment will remove the obligation of a husband and a woman and make them equally responsible, which is not something that should happen. In 1973, there was a debate in Illinois State University where Betty Friedan stated, "I consider you a traitor to your sex." Phyllis Schlafly, she would antagonize liberal feminist women in the audience, stating, "I'd like to thank my husband for allowing me to speak here today," which would later be called by liberal feminist women as inexperienced and unprofessional, because she was common to antagonize women during protests or during conferences. Betty Friedan was completely the opposite of Phyllis Schlafly. She helped shape feminist movements in the 1960s. She pushed for control of reproduction decisions and sexuality, and she also fought for equality issues, equal pay for work, women's opportunities. The quote on the screen was something that would also be considered today as a modern issue of special privileges within gender roles and discrimination as well. Bella Abzug was also part of women's rights leader. She was also the first a member of Congress to support women's liberation move, advocated for equal rights for LGBTQ citizens, and committed to feminism. She was also very in the cabinet of Jimmy Carter, and as well as Rosalynn Carter and his wife were very equal to supporting equal rights amendments. Abortion and gay rights, which were majority supported by white or against it. Phyllis believed that homosexuality was a political and moral threat, and she was pro-life or pro-family rallies, which she would speak, prayers, and music. Participants spoke against the era abortion. LGBTQ rights would also perceived to be society's assault on American values. The Republican platform included anti-abortion stance. Phyllis was concerned about children's perspective on gender roles and not being able to learn if having this in society. This is another Phyllis-Schlafly report, an era and homosexual marriages. Phyllis' report was against marriages, tolerance of something considered it was to use the law to extend each right to homosexuals would be a grave interference with the rights of the rest of our citizens, and it was an impact to everyone else, an impact to education. Hence why she was against it, and it was not rights for a person. It was not right for the marriage between a person and a person, and it is not something that is all a marriage between a man and a woman. Because a person and a person does not have gender roles or the traditional gender roles of a man providing and the woman being at home. So she was also against sexual orientation. These are more examples of the Phyllis reports where she also states, are you financing women's lib and era, or what is wrong with equal rights for women? Another Phyllis report would patronize the game of the game. Same-sex marriage and women's rights today are different what they used to be. In June 26, 2015, the Supreme Court decided to grant same-sex marriage in 59 states with equal recognition under the law. There's a Me Too gender-based violence and sexual harassment digital movement, advocacy campaigning to respect women's rights. Phyllis was very outspoken about her beliefs, and she would also provide a voice for the conservative women. She paved the way to show the opposite side of the coin. If everyone agreed to the movement of the equal rights movement, then we would have had equal rights sooner. But she added to the debate and gave voice to conservative women and added to give a voice to women in general.